Yo, what up YouTube gang? I'm JPatz and today we're going to be breaking down why your boom bap drums might suck, and I'm going to be giving you tips on how to improve them and fix that issue that you might have in your track. So I'm going to show you the drums that I'm going to be breaking down from this beat I made, and let's just get right into it. Alright, so you could hear just like a smooth, good boom bap vibe with a good rhythm. So first I'm going to show you the drums alone. So there's kind of three categories I've broken this down into. The first one being sound selection. Your sound selection has to be good. That's just a given. Without good sound selection, your drums just aren't going to be dope. So my first tip would be to study songs you love. So I don't know, say a Jay Dilla track, for example. Like everyone loves his drums, so why don't you listen to that in the certain frequencies, or where the snare's hitting, the timing of the snares, the timing of the hats, the kick, all of that, and just really study it. And what you could even do is load the beats into your program and then just try to replicate them. And to get high quality drum sounds, all you need to do is just go to a high quality source, meaning like Drum Broker, which I love, or Splice, or even just your favorite producer's kit. Like if you love their drums and they sell a kit, just buy the kit. You're supporting them and you're gonna have the dope drums that they use. All right, so here's a tip I can actually show you, which is to change like the pitch of a sound or release, because sometimes a snare will actually be hitting out of key, for example. So just adjusting up or down a semitone or even two, your snare could really fit the track a lot more. So try to pay attention to that. Here I've got the snare, for example. There's so much character to it, and sometimes you don't want that, you know? So there's a few things you could do. One, you could literally just cut the track and maybe put like a fade on it. And see how much tighter that's made the snare? So nice. It's just gonna hit really hard, and there's not all that extra characteristic to it, you know? And you could even put your own reverb on it or layer your own open hat on it instead of having this whole. And then the other thing I was talking about is to warp this and then switch this to Complex Pro and then just pitch it up or down one. See the different sounds it gets? So you need to just play with that, and it's different for every melody you might have or the other sounds that you're using with your beat. Those are two really big tips that I suggest you incorporate. Next, it's part of sound selection, but it's choosing realistic drum sounds. And this is for boom bap specifically that I'm talking about, because you want drums that almost sound like they came from a drum break, and you're just gonna play them rhythmically, kind of like a drum break, you know? And then the next thing is, there's no shame in using drum breaks. Like if you just don't have the rhythm, or you can't figure it out yet, or you're still trying to figure it out, study drum breaks, or just chop up a drum break, or use drum breaks in your sounds, or even chop out like a snare or a kick or a hi-hat from a drum break. Process those sounds and then make your own drum kit out of them. There's so many things you could do, and it's just about utilizing your resources. And sometimes that's tough because of all the possibilities we have with computers and the internet. So that's actually why I made this video, so that I could break down things for you to actually focus on and how to level up your drums. All right, so the next main category of how to get better drums and how to make your boom bap drums better is rhythm. You need good rhythm. So think about a drummer. A drummer has rhythm. That's what makes them dope. If they just played a lifeless drum break, or just like a beginner played a drum break, it wouldn't sound very good. But it's the rhythm and the timing and all of that and velocity that gives it life. But the first tip for rhythm, and I think one of the most important ones, is timing of your hats and percussion. So if you look at the hats I have, none of them are on the grid. Even if they're not swung super hard, it's just realistic, because no drummer is playing everything perfectly on like a robot, you know? It's just not gonna happen. No matter how crazy or good of a drummer you are, you could play a straighter swing And I've said this in other videos, but it's gonna be really hard to play everything exactly on the grid. So I think messing with just the timing of things is super important. For me, it's pulling these hats back in this specific beat, but sometimes they might be a little bit early, who knows, or it might be an early one and a late one. So it all just depends on the rhythm. The next thing to think about is the rhythm of the melody. So if the melody's super behind the beat, you might want to play things kind of behind the beat too, you know, because if your snare's hitting super early and the melody's hitting super late, it might sound really weird, or it might be the swing you want. So it's all kind of just like a studying thing and then doing what sounds good to your ear. Also, when you program in your drums, think about what the melody's doing. Is the melody super plucky? Is it playing eighth notes? Is it playing quarter notes? Is it playing 16th notes? Because that might dictate the type of drums and rhythm you want to do with the hats, for example, or the kick or the snare. So think about that too. And lastly, if you're kind of scared of groove and you don't really understand it fully, there's a cool trick in Ableton I'm about to show you now. And I think most DAWs have at least like a swing pool you can use, but for Ableton, there's this. Say you have super basic drums. See, everything's like super stiff, fully on the grid. What we could do is take this drum break and we could right click it and then just do extract grooves. So what that's gonna do is take the timing of this groove and even some of the velocity, and you're gonna be able to apply it to your own drums. So I'm gonna show you once this finishes loading up. Okay, so now if you see it's loaded up in the side here, and there's also different parameters you can mess with here, like random for velocity, how much you want it to quantize before it applies the swing, I think that one is, and then just like the bass and timing. So if you actually don't know what they mean, you could pull up this little sidebar on the bottom left here, and it's actually super useful for Ableton, because if you don't know what something does, you could figure out super easy, and it just breaks it down. Okay, so now that we have the groove extracted, you want to go into the MIDI of it, and we want to click on groove over here, and then click the only groove we extracted, and now let's play that. Can you hear that timing difference of it? So without it. Now with it. And if you like a super visual person, what you could do is commit the groove, and what that does is it'll actually shift the MIDI that you see right here to the groove that it's playing. Because right now you can't see it when you just choose it in the drop down. But if you click commit, it's going to actually show you what it's done. So let's see. So you could see it's pulled the kick back, it's pulled the snare back, pulled the hats back. It looks like it's kind of just pulled everything back, and then you see there's kind of like an early snare here. So it's just giving it another form of life. That's where I think the groove pool can be super useful, especially if you're extracting it from a drum break you really like the rhythm of. Keep that in mind and play around with that, because it can be really dope. There's one really big tip I want to also add for helping you choose the right drum sounds. And what I do is I basically will go through like a folder of kicks and just load up like 4 kicks on here that I think sound good. And then I'll do the same with snares and the same with hi-hats and then whatever percussion I want. And I'll just play around with them on my MIDI keyboard and see what sounds good together. You know, even if you're not good at finger drumming, just play it with the melody, and I guarantee it'll up your sound selection, and it'll definitely help you make a better sound selection choice for your beat if you just listen and use your ears and actually apply that and just trust the process. I think a lot of people often want to rush it and just get the drums done and just be done with it, but if you really take the time, I guarantee it's going to make the world of a difference in your beats. Okay, and then the last main category that I have for how to up your drums is velocity. So it kind of goes hand in hand with the rhythm thing, because you can have rhythm, but if you don't have the velocity differences, then it's not going to have those dynamics that help give it a human feel. Let's actually first just start with these garbage hats that I did. So garbage day! Here's this drum beat with these trash hats. See how it's like all stiff, everything's playing at one velocity. So Let me show you decent hats. These aren't bad at all. I do this in a lot of my beats, which is just having one hat sound and then messing with the velocities. That's dope. The only difference I did there is one, pulled these back so the timing is kind of behind the beat. And then two, just mess with the velocities. You know, nothing's hidden exactly the same. And the second notes are hidden significantly lower. So it just adds so much more life to the beat. Let me just show you the difference between these and these ones. That sounds way better, at least to me. So now if you want to take it to a level up, I honestly don't do this on all my beats. I just use that second method I showed you. But if you want to take it to the next level, you could literally clone the hat and then have different volumes or have it playing at different parts of the hat. And what that's going to do is give you automatic variation. Again, I applied the same rhythm and I didn't even really have to do much velocity changing because the different versions of the hats I already have different velocities. So let me show you how this sounds. Let's show you that to the previous example that was pretty good. So now here's the main one that I have. It just has so much more life because the different hats playing. So now with the beat, let me just show you that. That's just got like such a nice rhythm, bounce, velocity. It just feels real, you know? Another velocity trick you need to know is ghost notes on your kick. And again, you can see the kick's not fully on. And then two, the ghost kick is lower than the main one, so. So like if I have this back at the same velocity, you'll instantly hear the difference. It's cool, but it just doesn't have that same life, whereas when I bring the velocity down, it just gives it more of a real vibe. It's much more rhythm because it's almost like that pre-kick that a drummer has before the main kick. You know, they're not pushing the kick fully down with their foot, it's just barely. So that's what you kind of replicate in on that. That's super important. And then just another thing can be snare rolls. So go into the snare. See it? Like, use velocity and just add more snares in certain places and it gives it such a dope sound. That sounds like some real drums, you know? That's where you want to go and apply that technique. Okay, so now let's just play the drums all together and you'll see the difference. Kind of just like a final thing I think I forgot to touch on is layering sounds on there. In this beat, I have like a clap layered, I have a stick, and I just have different perks. So I'll show you just the kick, the snare, and the hat, and then show you the difference with it. It's still dope. Let's add the clap though. And you can barely hear it, but it just adds that texture to the drums. You might not even notice, but it does make a difference. Next, I added the side stick in there. And that has some reverb on it, so it just adds like a cool tail on the drums. And then lastly, I just added in this perk. That perk's not hitting on every snare, so that just adds even more variation to your drums. Think about that too, layering things and to add like some textures and variation to your drums, because it could be super simple, sound like it's just kick, snare, and hat, but you might have little things layered in there that people don't really hear, but it makes the world of a difference in your drums and keeping them interesting. So that's another thing to keep in mind. So that about kind of wraps it up for my tips on how to level up your boom bap drums and get them sounding good. Hopefully there were some helpful tips in there that you could apply to your own beats. If you have any specific questions, just comment below and I'll do my best to get them answered. And please don't forget to hit the like button, the subscribe button, and the notification bell, because it'll really help out my channel and kind of keep me motivated to make more videos for you guys so that I know that you're digging them. So thank you for tapping in. I'm JPatz. Peace.